to someone earlier. His name is Francisco Sanchez. He was actually a former U.S. Undersecretary of Commerce for Trade in the Obama administration. We had him on Fox 35 News Plus earlier today, and we talked about kind of the different goals here of the administration. Obviously, we know they want to cut reliance on foreign goods, but President Trump also vowed to lower prices. And so the question is, can both of those things happen right now with this? And so we know there's going to be some pain and some bumpiness here for a little bit. And that was the one thing that Mr. Sanchez was talking about earlier today, was saying it's going to take businesses time to adjust if they are going to move operations.
Right. It takes years to build manufacturing.
Supply chains, all of those things. And here's what he said a little bit about this being really, it's going to be a process.
Yeah, supply chains have generally been in place for a while for many of these companies. And in many cases, there may not be readily available inputs. For example, if you're a manufacturer in the United States and part of your supply chain comes from overseas, it may come because it's cheaper to buy overseas, but it could also be that there's just not sufficient supply or any supply of a particular input for the United States. So to the extent that you're going to seek to try to integrate your supply chain entirely or primarily within the United States, it's going to take time. It's not something that you can do overnight.
But as we have seen, the stock market, not a fan so far.
No, as a lot of these companies have their manufacturing overseas. Nike plummeted today, Apple plummeted today. So we're going to see over the next few days and weeks if this can turn around. But as you said, it's going to take a lot. If these companies want to move their manufacturing back here to the United States, it's not going to be overnight.
Right, and because we have seen in recent years many move to other countries out of the United States. And so what will those plans look like? Just a lot of uncertainty right now, and that, I think, is why we're seeing so much volatility in the market.
A lot of nerves on edge today.
No doubt about that. Let's take a look at this story in Lake County, where prosecutors announced today they are going to seek the death penalty against the two suspects in this Tavares child abuse and now murder case.
Yeah, it was such a sad story when we heard that 10-year-old Xavier Williams died last month. He was allegedly tortured by his own mother, Kimberly Mills, and her boyfriend, Andre Walker, who you saw right there. The charges against them have now been upgraded to first-degree murder. And as you said, Garrett, prosecutors announced today that they will be seeking the death penalty against this couple. You saw a picture there. That was the home in Tavares where Xavier was allegedly tortured along with his younger brother, who's now living with his dad up in Connecticut. They allegedly duct taped the poor little boy to that ladder and then dropped a dumbbell on his stomach. He stopped breathing. The couple rushed him to the hospital. Andre there allegedly left the hospital, so they had to get him to turn himself in later. But just a very sad story. The senseless murder of that poor little boy.
Yeah, and so we know now the grand jury indicted on the new upgraded charges.
Yes.
Previously it was second-degree murder. Now these are obviously much more serious charges. That kind of changes the process now moving forward because there's obviously a lot more work to do in a capital case like that. And that's one thing that the prosecutors talked about today is this will slow down the case as they continue to continue this push toward a trial.
Adding the element of death penalty being on the table always, I can say with near 100% certainty, means that cases take longer to work through the system. There's different and additional experts that aren't necessary in some cases. The amount of prep and everything that goes into it typically extends it. There's no way to say how long a case is going to be pending, but it certainly doesn't shorten it. So it's going to be a while.
So a long path ahead. We have heard from the family about how difficult this has been. You can only imagine because we know the father lived out of town and so had no idea any of this was happening. You can only imagine just being blindsided by this. And they've talked, the aunt specifically, who's kind of been the spokesperson for their family, has talked about the support from the community and how that has really helped them and uplifted them in this. And this is going to be a long path now for them, but this is something that the boy's aunt, Camille Williams, said at that news conference just a little bit ago that they are okay with this being a long process if that's what it takes.
This is good news for us moving forward. We feel like it's time for justice to be served. I know we know and we understand that it's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a long process. But with this new development, we are hopeful and hoping that justice will be served.
So we will continue to follow that case.
Yes, definitely.
A bizarre case now out of Orange County where 2 people have been arrested for allegedly staging a home invasion to cover up what investigators say was in fact a murder.
Yeah, it's just a crazy story. This actually happened about 14 months ago, but the arrests were just made. Let's kind of slow down, walk you through exactly what is being alleged. So 30-year-old Porsche Nikita was found shot to death in a bed right next to her 3 children lying, in that bed with her. Her boyfriend said there was a home invasion, someone shot his girlfriend, and then he actually was shot in the arm as well. Turns out investigators say there was no home invasion. It was the boyfriend, Sean Range, who got his friend, Benjamin Garman, to come into the house, kill his girlfriend, and then shoot him, and then make it look like it was a home invasion. Allegedly, this couple had a very toxic relationship. They were fighting. There was some beef over money that she had hidden from him. He wanted full custody of the kids. And so this is what he allegedly stoops to, having his friend kill his girlfriend, and he even took a bullet in the arm as well.
A lot of crazy details in this one. You can only imagine. Obviously, it was something that it took investigators a while to kind of piece together and figure this out because, like you said, it has been a while since this happened. We had the scene video from what we had thought, what investigators thought at the time was a home invasion because that's what had been told to them. But obviously, as they continue to look into this, something didn't add up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting, I think, to learn how they were finally
piece
able
it
to piece that together.
Yeah.
So we will find out as that moves forward. But certainly some bizarre details in what is really a sad case when you talk about that woman being shot in a bed with her children right there.
Her 4 kids, 10 years old, 2 and 1, now have to live with, their mom being dead, shot next to him, the trauma of that, and now their dad's probably going to be, going to jail for life, if not getting the death penalty in this. So just a sad, sad story.
Yeah, sad all around. Finally, today we have the hurricane season outlook from Colorado State University, something we always look for every year to kind of give us a pretty good picture of what to expect this hurricane season.
Yeah, most of us don't even want to think about it yet. Hurricane season kicks off in less than 2 months now, June 1st, and we got our first glimpse of what this season could possibly look like. According to Colorado State University, they are expecting an above average hurricane season. Not what we want to hear, but it is just the facts, folks. The experts are predicting 17 named tropical storms, of which 9 will become hurricanes, and 4 of those will become major hurricanes, which of course is a Category 3 or higher. Now, if this does come to fruition, it'll be very similar to the hurricane season we had last year when we had 18 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 5 major ones.
Yeah, like you said, don't really want to be thinking about that yet. But one of the interesting things is that there's also a pretty decent percentage of chances for landfall on that. So there's a lot that we don't know yet. Obviously, you can't predict track and those kinds of things yet. And that's one of the things that this afternoon, Noah and Laurel spoke with one of the researchers from Colorado State about some of the things that we don't know yet, but why it's important to keep all of this in mind, even at this point. Like you said, less than 2 months out.
This does not tell you anything about the track, and it only gives you a probability of landfall. We cannot say where it's going to make landfall, right? Or how many times will it make a hit in Florida? We don't know that. Last year, for sure, it was an interesting season where Florida got hit 3 times, but we don't know exactly where the storms are going to track. And it is important to always be prepared and just know that it only takes one storm to be able to make it an impactful season for you.
And that's a good point, though. it only takes one storm to make it an impactful season for you. And so we certainly hope for no landfalls.
Yes.
They are predicting above average. Thankfully, not quite as active as last year, and let's hope that it's not as active as last year.
Yes, and it's not an exact science, so hopefully we get fewer storms than they predict.
Sounds good to me. Well, that is today's Top 4 for LuAnne. We appreciate you
No
joining us.
problem.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard joins me now. And Laurel, the big talk today as we look ahead, less than 2 months out from hurricane season?
59 days to be exact. I know right now I'm enjoying the sunshine. Like many of you, hurricane season a little bit further down on the list to worry about right now. But today, again, keeping in the back of our minds that hurricane season is on the way. Colorado State University put out the first outlook of the season, their April outlook, and they've been doing this for a while. They've been doing this for now 42 years, and their forecasts are extremely accurate. Their 2024 one was right on the money for major hurricanes. There were 6 major hurricanes in 2024, and they once again got it right on the money. So today, the April 4 forecast for the 2025 season got put out, and they're looking at 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, which is category 1 to 5, 4 of which being major hurricanes. So this is something that we're going to be focusing in on now that we're kind of on the clock now. That hurricane season is on the way, and I know it feels like summer out there, but luckily we're not looking at any hurricanes coming up as we take a look at this week. But main takeaways from the outlook as a whole, it's still going to be an above normal activity kind of season, but not as busy as 2024. Of course, 2024, there was Beryl, there was Helene, there was Milton, and it just seems there was one after another. Doesn't look to be as busy as 2024, but on the flip side, we're already seeing the Atlantic Basin warmer than average, but still not as warm as last year. So that's kind of one of the tickers that we have that Colorado State University used in order to create their outlook, looking at those sea surface temperatures and also the phase of ENSO we're in. So with that, we're not quite a full La Nina, but we're not quite a El Nino either. So we're somewhere in the middle. So we're still looking at above normal activity, but not as strong as what we were seeing in 2024, where we were seeing a lot stronger of a La Nina pattern. So with that, still seeing those warmer than average sea surface temperatures, but also one of the big takeaways from that outlook, looking at an above average chance of seeing at least one major hurricane hit the U.S. and make landfall in the U.S. coastline or make landfall in the Caribbean. So looking onto that, overall looking at that above average chance of that U.S. or Caribbean landfall, looking at a 51% chance of at least one major hurricane hitting the U.S. coast. And that includes all of the Gulf and all of the East Coast as well. Average running from 1880 to 2020, now 43%, so we're a little bit above average, looking at 51% probability of that happening. But focusing in on Florida for sure, we want to know what's the probability for us, especially because we got hit with Helene and then a couple weeks later Milton. Yeah, that was busy. So again, including all of Florida and up the East Coast, this is from Maine all the way through the Florida Panhandle, looking at a 20% chance of landfall of at least one major hurricane along the East Coast as we take a look at 2025. And then also the Gulf Coast, they got hit with Beryl right off the bat of the season, and that was the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record. Looking from the Gulf Coast, that's Texas all the way to the Florida Panhandle, but not including the Florida Panhandle, a 33% chance, which again, above average of 27, running with that total from 1880 to 2020. So overall, above average chances of the U.S. getting hit with at least one major hurricane. But looking ahead to 2025, you're probably thinking to yourself, some of these names do look a little bit familiar. Starting the list off with Andrea, going all the way down to Wendy. Some of these definitely do ring a bell, except for one of them, that is Dexter. So this is the list from 2019. All of the storm names get recycled every 6 years, with the exception of if they're retired. And Dexter is subbed in because in 2019, we had Dorian. So with that, we're seeing that name subbed out, just like how we saw yesterday, and it was official yesterday, that Beryl, Helene, and Milton are now retired off that list that we saw from the 2024 season.
All right. Meanwhile, let's look now, because we know in other parts of the country, they're dealing with outbreaks of severe weather and just devastating consequences of that.
Yeah, Gary, you're absolutely right. Last night was horrific when it came to severe weather. Numerous tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warning issued all along this front. It doesn't look as active right now, but still we're seeing severe thunderstorm watches as well as a tornado warning just north of Northeast Tennessee. Looks like in southern West Virginia right there. But overall, this line is going to continue to wreak havoc across the Midwest, because as we take a look at tomorrow, still seeing that severe chance and that enhanced risk back towards Arkansas, actually got up to a significant risk. And then as even we take a look at Saturday, Memphis once again in that very likely chance of seeing severe weather once again. And it doesn't stop there. It continues into Sunday as well. This is going to weaken significantly before it makes its way into central Florida. But for now, as we take a look at the forecast, we're going to be hot and humid, and that's really all due to this line. It's just pulling up all of this very warm and humid air, which is creating those breezy conditions that you're feeling outside. But as we head through the next couple of days, this line is pretty much just going to stay before it slowly creeps down towards the south, possibly bringing in our next rain chance as we take a look at Tuesday, Monday night into Tuesday is when we're slated to see that rain right now. But until then, it's hot and humid out there, Garrett.
There is no doubt about that. Feeling very much like summer. And so what is that? Is that going to change at all with that line of storms moving through in other places? What does that bring into us?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, bringing in all that hot and humid air, that's why it's been so warm. That's why it's been so breezy. And we're going to stick with that for the next couple of days. But once that frontal boundary moves through, it's going to be refreshing, even dare I say chilly. We're going to see those temperatures really plummet. So right now we're well above average for this time of year, normally average high around 81, and that's going to tank back down into the upper 70s as we take a look a little bit later on next week. So how it's feeling out there right now, it's hot, it's humid. Once that front rolls through, it's going to be very refreshing, totally not feeling like summer Florida of what we're feeling right now. And even as we take a look a little bit further into April, further ahead into next week, it's going to be chilly out there. Once that frontal boundary moves through, much cooler temperatures on tap, and you can see that in our 7-day forecast. You can see those rain chances really amping up as that frontal boundary rolls through. I'd say overnight Monday and mainly into your Tuesday morning is what's slated right now, and we continue to hold those 90s until that frontal boundary moves through, bringing in much cooler air in across the region, popping us down back to seasonable for this time of year.
All right, the bottom kind of drops out there, but we will take it. A little bit of a break from the summer before we get to actual summer.
Yeah, pretty much. We got a little bit of a taste, but we're going to be back into spring by the time we hit next week.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. Well, this afternoon, State Attorney Monique Worrell, who is the prosecutor for Orange and Osceola counties, held a news conference to outline a new workflow that she says will help streamline things and really prioritize arrest cases, more serious cases that she says need to be prioritized because of backlogs and already tough things that are really just drawing out the process for a number of cases. The state attorney's office says they will now refuse many non-arrest cases in a lot of scenarios because where she says officers show up and no arrest or citation is issued. I want to play for you a little bit of that news conference where we heard from the state attorney.
So in order to address this situation, I am at this time, and as of April 1st, we are no longer accepting non-arrest cases in most circumstances. We are asking and enthusiastically looking forward to collaborating with our law enforcement partners to build the best cases possible so that when that case comes into our office, we can get right to prosecuting it and delivering justice for the community. So at this time, I'm just going to ask Dave to come and give you, from a law enforcement perspective, the different options that are available to law enforcement when they're called for some crime that's been committed, and then how that case ends up in our office. Dave?
Good afternoon again. My name is Dave Allman. I'm one of the investigators here at the State Attorney's Office. You may ask what an investigator at the State Attorney's Office does. Well, we have 13 sworn law enforcement investigators. We're sworn police officers, and what our role is once a case gets to the State Attorney's Office, we assist the prosecutors in preparing the case for prosecution and through all the tasks for prosecution. But our investigators have a wealth of experience in law enforcement, so my goal in the next few minutes is just to give you a general idea of our collaboration with law enforcement and how we partner with our partners in the community who wear the badge to ensure that justice is served. So typically, you may understand that someone calls 911 and the police, law enforcement, go to their house because there's an allegation that a crime has been committed. So the police go and they conduct an investigation. And now the police have what's called probable cause. They need to develop this probable cause, which is a pretty low standard, in order for them to take action. And the way that the police officers do it, when they arrive on a scene, they conduct their investigation. That's the best time to conduct an investigation because the people are there, the physical evidence is there, everything they need. So if a police officer on the scene develops probable cause to determine that a crime has been committed, they have several options at that time. They actually have the option to make a physical arrest. If the person that committed the crime is there, they can take their handcuffs out and arrest them, take them to jail. And in that situation, the court process starts. Within days, that investigation is sent to our office and we assume prosecution. That person is removed from the streets until we can determine if prosecution is warranted. So they have that option if they develop probable cause. They also have the option, let's say they go to a criminal scene and they determine this person committed a crime and that person is gone. Well, they can go to the courthouse, they can get an arrest warrant from a judge, and then every law enforcement officer in our jurisdiction will be looking for them to take them into custody and arrest them. And once that...
So that was a little bit of that news conference as you heard them kind of talk through the reasoning for that change in prioritizing arrest cases over non-arrest cases. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Well, Doge investigators could be coming to Cocoa Beach. Fox 35's Esther Bauer joins us live now. And Esther, what are leaders there hoping to find out?
Yeah, so they're wanting to bring in the state Doge team. The governor, he says, obviously the federal government is really laser focused right now on eliminating fraud and waste from the federal government. But the governor here in Florida has also allocated resources at the state level, his own Doge team, to try and find wasteful spending and misuse of tax dollars as well in the state. The city of Cocoa Beach wants that team to get involved in local government and specifically relating to how the county is allocating tourism tax dollars. So here in Cocoa Beach, it's been so busy for spring break. And what one commissioner is telling us is we bring in about 60% of TDT, these tourism tax dollars, and yet we are only seeing a very small amount of that money coming back to us. Ultimately, he wants to know where the county is allocating the money. And if they're the ones bringing in more than 50% of funding, he believes that more should be coming their way. And that is why they are asking the state Doge team to get involved. He says if this passes, we will make our budget books readily available to the Doge team, as well as really kind of getting the county involved in this conversation. Because what we learned is even if the money is coming into Cocoa Beach, it's county leaders that ultimately have the say of where that money is spent. We did speak with someone who currently sits on the TDC council. He says getting investigators involved can happen, but he also points out that the money is already allocated by the state. And what he meant is all of the money has really specific funding groups it has to go in, whether that's marketing, whether that's renourishing the beaches. What this representative of the TDC said is, hey, the state's already telling us how to spend the money. It's not really us choosing which cities get more, which cities get less. So kind of some back and forth, because obviously the city of Cocoa Beach feels like the county is misusing, in a way, their specific tax dollars. But the people that sit on that board are ultimately saying our hands are kind of tied already by the state. So we will see. This is up for a vote tonight, 7 p.m. in Cocoa Beach, to see if other commissioners feel the same way. But yes, we could start seeing some Doge investigators getting involved in local government here on the Space Coast.
Would there be a timeline for that, or is there a timeline for that if that were to pass tonight?
Yeah, so it could pass tonight. As far as how fast Doge would start marching through the doors and kind of getting their hands on the current budget books, no solidified timeline quite yet. If you live on the Space Coast and have thoughts about how TDT dollars are spent, you're encouraged to come out to this meeting to see if it passes or not, see how the other commissioners feel. But no specific timeline as of yet for when we could start seeing some changes to how the money is spent.
All right, interesting stuff there. Fox 35's Esther Bauer, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, and we'll talk soon.
All right. We're also learning more about a company that says it wants to lower the cost of sending your loved one's ashes to space. This is apparently a thing that happens. I didn't even know that, but it does. And Fox 35's Matt Trezza joins us live now via Zoom. And Matt, so this is something that is already available to folks, but someone wants to make it more affordable.
Well, Garrett, you are probably not a Star Trek fan, because if you were a Star Trek fan, you would know that Star Trek founder Gene Roddenberry, along with his wife and one of the other crew members aboard the Starship Enterprise, also had their ashes sent up for a space burial, they call it. So it is a thing, it definitely happens, but you haven't heard much about it, probably because you're not one of the ultra wealthy for whom this is typically one of the options of saying goodbye to a loved one. These space burials are pricey. They start at around $2,500. The going general rate for one of the marquee companies that does this is around $5,000. They can be up to $12,000. So these are not cheap options for saying goodbye to a loved one, but there's a company called Space Beyond that wants to democratize this and bring the cost down to about $250. This is run by a fellow named Ryan Mitchell. He is a former Blue Origin project manager, and he says that he has decided to step away from Blue Origin and start this company that, again, brings ashes of loved ones to space for about $250. And so what they are trying to do is right now get the customers and get the clients that are going to make this happen. They want around 400 of them to come on board with the project in order to make sure that it can happen. They are still looking for that 400. Right now, they're called pre-registering people to sign up for this service and to get their loved ones, as part of this, signed onto it in order to make it happen.
So if other companies charge so much for it, then how is this company able to make it so much less expensive?
Well, I asked him that question. He did not give me an exact specific answer as when it comes to like weights and measurements and things like that. But overall, when I asked him that, he explained to me that we're talking about scale here. So first off, this isn't just one person's remains going up aboard a commercial rocket. This is many people's remains all together on a satellite that is going to get sent up. So as far as scale goes, that is one way of bringing down the cost. Another thing is because he says they're trying to make it as efficient as possible. So they're creating their own satellite for this journey, and they are putting together all of it to try and make it as efficient as possible cost-wise. Again, let me describe kind of how the process works, and that can kind of explain how it can be at such a low cost. A lot of companies have a lot of overhead, and the other thing is he's not sending this up on a rocket of his own design. This is something that is going to set up or go up on a existing commercial rocket. So think SpaceX, Blue Origin, United Launch Alliance, one of those other rockets that consistently goes up from the Cape here. And they're creating a small vehicle called a satellite that's going to be packed on board the rocket payload along with other stuff. And it's all going to go up together. And then it gets deployed once it's in orbit into orbit around the Earth. And that satellite that they create is going to circle and continue orbiting the Earth for up to 25 years, at which point it's going to deorbit and then come back down into Earth's atmosphere, burn up in the atmosphere, and disappear altogether. And the amount of cremains, they're called, cremated remains, that is sent up on the satellite, it's not the majority of the ashes that you're handed when a loved one passes and gets cremated. It's only a small, I would say about a thimble-sized portion of those remains that go up with it. So if you choose to have your loved one memorialized this way, you pay for the service, they send you a kit. The kit has a fill and the container, and you take the remains, pour them into the container to fill it up. Again, it's about thimble size, and then you send that back in a postage paid envelope to Space Beyond. They package it with the rest of them, and then they send them up all at once all together, and of course let you know which is the rocket on which it will be launching, so you can go and watch it and actually see it launch. So that's how they intend to bring the cost down. They are looking for around 400, like I said, people to sign up for the service in order for it to get all started, because you have 400 people signing up at $250 a pop. That's the $100,000 that he needs to book this satellite on a SpaceX rocket. That's about the going rate for a satellite that size to be launched.
Interesting stuff, Matt. I gotta say, that's is it the future? We will see. It'd be interesting to see if this is something that grows in popularity.
I'll tell you what, honestly, looking into it, funerals are very expensive as it is. So if this is an alternative for some people to get an eco-friendly space burial, then more power to them.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Fox 35's Matt Trezza. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us. This afternoon, we're continuing to track these new developments out of this case in Tavares, where we know the state prosecutor is now going to seek the death penalty against Kimberly Mills and Andre Walker, charged in connection with the death of 10-year-old Xavier Williams. Investigators say he was tortured. We know he was in the hospital for weeks before he died. The grand jury, we learned today, returned an indictment on 5 counts, including that first-degree murder charge for both suspects. I want to play for you a little bit of that news conference. A few minutes here from the state attorney, William Gladson, and also Xavier's aunt, Camille Williams, speaking inside the state attorney's office this afternoon.
Today we're here to announce that the grand jury indicted 37-year-old Kimberly Mills, the mother of the victim, and 36-year-old Andre Walker, the paramour of Mills, on 5 counts. Both Mills and Walker were indicted as principals to first-degree murder, principals first-degree felony murder, as well as aggravated child abuse. And at this point, I want to read portions of the indictment so you'll have an understanding of what, to some extent, what information, or at least what evidence the grand jury considered when they made their decision. So for count 1, and this applies to both defendants, principal to murder in the first degree felony murder, Kimberly Mills and Andre Dwayne Walker, on or about February 22nd, 2025, did unlawfully and feloniously, while engaged in the perpetration of a certain felony, to wit, aggravated child abuse, kill and murder Xavier Williams, a human being under the age of 18 years. Count 2, as to both defendants. Principal to aggravated child abuse, first degree felony. Kimberly LuAnne Mills, Andre Walker, between December 24th, 2024 and February 20th, 2025, did unlawfully, actually, intentionally commit one or more of the following acts of striking Xavier Williams, a child under the age of 18 years, against his will, or intentionally cause bodily harm to said child by striking him with a dumbbell. And in the commission of said acts of battery, did intentionally and knowingly cause great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement to said child. Count 3 of the indictment, principal to aggravated child abuse as to both defendants, first degree felony. Kimberly Mills and Andre Walker, on December 24th, or between December 24th, 2024 and February 20th, 2025, did unlawfully and maliciously punish Xavier Williams, a person under the age of 18 years, by striking him with various objects to include a dumbbell, boxing gloves, flashlights, and a copper rod in violation of Florida statutes. Now, as I said earlier, there's a 5-count indictment. The last 2 counts will need some redactions. There will be copies of them available for you. Today, we're kind of prepared to talk about counts 1 through 3, which include the first degree murder and the child abuse. The other thing I want to mention at this point is I'm going to announce today that we are seeking the death penalty as to both defendants in this case. As you know, Florida law allows for capital punishment for the most heinous of crimes and for the most vulnerable of victims. And that's what we have in this particular case, and that's why we are here today. At this time, I'm going to read portions of the notice of intent to seek death, which has been filed in this case. The state intends to seek the death penalty in the event the defendant is found guilty of first-degree murder. The aggravating factors the state intends to prove and has reason to believe that it can prove beyond a reasonable doubt are as follows. The defendant was previously convicted of another capital felony or a felony involving the use or threat of violence to the person. The capital felony was committed while the defendant was engaged in or was an accomplice in the commission of or an attempted to commit aggravated child abuse. The capital felony was especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. The victim of the capital felony was a person less than 12 years of age. The victim of the capital felony was particularly vulnerable because the defendant stood in a position of familial or custodial authority. Those are the 5 aggravators that we have evidence that we expect and intend to prove in this case, should the jury come back with a conviction in the future of first-degree murder. I know that's a lot to digest, and I appreciate your patience, because this has been something, as I said earlier, that's been talked about in the media a lot. The Tavares Police Department has done an excellent job getting information out when they can. Sometimes we always work together, and sometimes we have to keep information close until we get to the point where a grand jury has been seated, convened, and then has heard the evidence. So with those updates, I'd like to thank Chief Corsi, Detective Doug Roberts, and Detective Courtney Sullivan for their diligence in investigating this case and keeping the public, as I said, informed all along the way as much as they could. I also want to express my deep appreciation to the community members who have come out in support of the family in this case. Hundreds of you attended the vigil this past week, and a family that's going through what this family is going through needs to know that they have the support of the community as they move forward. I have personally seen how community support can keep family members of victims, survivors, engaged in the process and give them the strength to make it through, because what they're going through now and what they're going to go through is unimaginable to the rest of us.
I want to express my family's elation in the new indictments. I must say, and I think I can speak for all of the members of our family, it hasn't been a joyous occasion, but we are pleased with the news we got today. I want to thank the state's attorney's office for all that they have been doing. We want to thank the Tavares Police Department and the grand jury for their timeless efforts in ensuring that this journey to justice is a deserved one for Xavier Williams, our beloved Xavier Williams and his brother. I want to take this time out to thank everyone, the community of Tavares and the surrounding communities, everyone that was involved, the media, everybody that donated, every single person for praying, for the compassion, for the sympathy, for a lot of people has reached out to us, both here and all over the states, everywhere. So we want to thank them from the bottom of our hearts. We are genuinely grateful for that. I want to also take this opportunity, because I might not get another one, to highlight the candlelight vigil for Xavier Williams that will take place in Connecticut, Wednesday, April 9, from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the West Indian Social Club, 3340 Main Street, Hartford, Connecticut, 06120. And we are encouraging everyone to please wear blue, as that was Xavier's favorite color. And we will have candles, but you can also choose to bring your own. Again, thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
A live look right now at Las Vegas, Nevada. The college basketball crown continues tonight in Las Vegas. 16-team single elimination tournament with NIL money on the line. And tonight is the quarterfinals. and the UCF Knights take on the Cincinnati Bearcats at 7 p.m. on FS1. Earlier today, I had the chance to speak with Jim Jackson, a Fox Sports college basketball announcer, lead analyst, and he'll be on the call for the game tonight. We talked about UCF, we talked about the tournament, and we talked about the state of college basketball. Jim, we're talking the college basketball crown, and how fun has this been so far?
Well, it's been first of all, thank you for having me on. It's been, I think, really great because it's basketball, especially postseason basketball. And, just one of the questions was, team participation. You're dealing with NIL, you're dealing with transfer portal. How many guys are going to play? All these questions were unknown, but I think a lot were answered with regards to how hard these young men play, how hard the coaches coach, some of the support that was here, fan-wise for these particular schools, and the fun and excitement of the game. So, so far the games have been competitive. As we get down to the quarterfinals again today, and then the semifinals and finals, I think that the scene has been set for a really, really, really great weekend of basketball.
And you're on the call tonight for UCF and Cincinnati. What are you wanting to see tonight out of that one?
Well, just more competitive basketball. I mean, you got two teams that know each other because they're in the Big 12 conference. They played earlier in the year, I think in February, and Cincinnati was able to get that W. So it's going to be a little get back, of course, on the mind of UCF. You have two great coaches in Wes Miller on the court. Of course, Johnny Dawkins, who was a former Duke standout and also NBA player. So, two teams very competitive, come from a great league in the Big 12, looking to advance to the semifinals. The beauty about it is, too, this is different because now these young men have an opportunity to play for some real money. Third and fourth place gets $50,000. The second place winner of this tournament gets $150,000. In the first place, the champion gets $300,000. So not just playing, getting better for the summer, preparing yourself, but also there's a cash reward at the end, which is the era of college sports that we're in right now.
Yeah, talk about that, because this is something that would have been unheard of not that long ago.
I know. It's changed. I know a lot of people are resistant to change when it comes to NIL, when it comes to paying college athletes, but it's the way of which the dynamics has changed over the years. There's so much money, TV money, regarding college athletics, in particular basketball and football, and the basketball on the women's side as well, that it's about that time. I think the NCAA kind of put this on the shelf a lot of years and could have addressed this issue a lot earlier regarding pay, compensation for students, athletes. But now it's gotten to that point, and I think it's about to regulate itself, where you have a better streamlined, I think, program in place where these student athletes can get paid. But I've been an advocate of this for quite some time, and now these young men and women are able to benefit off their name, likeness, and image, and also benefit from the explosion with this TV money over the last 15, 20 years of putting the product of college sports on the forefront of the national audience, and now they're able to benefit from it.
Jim, I want to get your take on this, because there is some criticism over it basically becoming like a free agency system when you kind of pair up that NIL with the transfer portal and the way that works. Do you think there's more that kind of needs to be done, or do you think the sport is sustainable the way it is now?
And that's a great question, because I thought that at the beginning when you first got approved to do NIL, that for the name, likeness, and image, you don't know what the snowball effect is because it's something new. And as a result, you had the ability for schools to form a third party, which is a collective, which then was able to pay payers, to attend a certain university. That's something these universities, or I think the sport or the programs, never thought was coming. But I thought that you needed to have 3, 4, 5 years of this type of data to figure out what was right, what was wrong with the system, and then be able to correct that. And I think that's where we're at right now. And coming up in June, the House bill is going to be passed, where schools will be able to opt into this bill through the House that is a $20.5 million cap for universities that opt in that can then spend this money on student athletes. And the way it's supposed to be divvied up is 75% to football, 15% to basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and 5% to the other sports. Now, keep in mind, if you're a conference like the Big East that doesn't have the football advantage or doesn't have the football kind of powerhouse, then that money, a lot of that money can be geared towards the basketball program. So you have really a financial advantage, I would say, but it's starting to regulate itself out. I think there's still some more things that probably are going to need to be done in the future, but we're trending in the right direction where you'll have some continuity across the boards where all of these university and programs are going to be, I'm not going to say adding a level playing field, but as close to one right now as we can get.
All right, still seeing some good basketball on the court, though, and we look forward to tonight in the college basketball crown quarterfinals, UCF and Cincinnati. Jim Jackson on the call for that, and we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. It should be some great basketball.
Yeah, we're hoping so. Hoping for a Knights win tonight in the quarterfinals of that. You can watch it on FS1. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus today. We appreciate you joining us live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. We will go ahead and get ready to send things out to Fox 35 News at 5. Here is Studio A, a live look as John and LuAnne getting ready for the start of that newscast. Tracking some breaking news there. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger are going to have the latest on this case out of Orange County, where deputies are saying the mother, a woman, was shot in her bed with her children there, in believing that the suspects in this staged it as a home invasion. Talked about that earlier in the show in our top 4. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger are going to have the latest details on that, what we know about that case, as 2 arrests have now been made in that shooting investigation. So thanks for joining us. We will go ahead and send things out to the studio. We will see you back here at 11 a.m. for more Fox 35 News Plus.